We are on, everybody. Jim, can you see me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Well, good. Jim Duderstadt is a good friend. We worked together for a while at the University of Michigan. I was just telling somebody we worked together but his track was way faster than mine. So I'm going to read you some explanation of that and just say I'm delighted to have another good friend back to talk to us, and I'm sure you're going to be find what he has to say really interesting. Worldwide education is a big deal. So let me read the formal stuff and then we'll get started. Dr. James J. Duderstadt is President Emeritus and University Professor of Science and Engineering at the University of Michigan. He received his baccalaureate degree in electrical engineering with highest honors from Yale University in 1964 and his doctorate in engineering science and physics from Caltech in 1967. He was appointed as president of the University of Michigan in 1988 and served in this role until July 1996. He currently holds a university-wide faculty appointment as University Professor of Science and Engineering and directs the university's program in science, technology, and public policy. He has received many national awards for his research, teaching, and service activities, including the E.O. Lawrence Award for Excellence in Nuclear Research, the Arthur Holly Compton Prize for Outstanding Teaching, the Reginald Wilson Award for National Leadership in Achieving Diversity, and the National Medal of Technology for exemplary service to the nation. He's been elected to the National Academy of Engineering, the American Academy of Arts and Science, Phi Beta Kappa, and Tau Beta Pi. He currently chairs several major national study commissions in areas including federal science policy, higher education, information technology, and engineering research. Please welcome Jim Duderstadt.
Well, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to chat a bit with you this evening. I noticed that even with televideo, students tend to sit towards the back of the lecture hall. Maybe that's because you can see me better. I thought for a while to show a bunch of slides and so forth, but I'm operating these days in real time. And so I thought it might be more fun to kind of review several topics with you and then engage in a question and answer, focus in on issues that you might find of interest. Kind of to set a context, over the weekend, a context on how globalization is kind of enveloping all of us. Friday, I spent the day at MIT, and much of that was spent with a strategic planning committee of leadership at MIT that's very seriously examining the possibility of MIT becoming a world university. And by that, they mean beginning to recruit and admit students intentionally from around the world. Their faculty, their graduate students are already highly international, but in essence, taking the last step. Then on Sunday and Monday, I'm on the advisory board, what's called the President's Council of Olin College of Engineering outside of Boston. Olin is the first brand new engineering college in this country in about 30 or 40 years. It's created by a $480 million gift from the Olin Foundation. They've only graduated 2 classes thus far, but they are essentially breaking the mold on how engineering education occurs. And they are, again, very seriously exploring how they produce global engineers, engineers that have the capacity to work in a world of engineering rather than simply for a particular company or for a nation. When I got back to Ann Arbor, which was only a few hours ago, I got a call waiting for me from the president of Purdue University. And her big problem is that a group of very wealthy people from the Middle East have just approached Purdue asking them to start a campus in Dubai. They're willing to pay everything for it, and I was trying to encourage her to make sure she looked that gift horse in the mouth, because to set up a branch campus for an American university is difficult enough, and to do one overseas, even if all the money is available, is a challenge. More broadly, as Jim noted, I'm heavily involved in several activities that really do relate to globalization. In fact, behind me, I don't think you can see much of the detail, but this is kind of my planning board, which have about a dozen different things that keep me out of town much of the time and trying to interconnect them. The ones of particular importance I'd like to talk about today a little bit. I currently chair the Advisory Committee on Cyber Infrastructure for the National Science Foundation. Now, cyber infrastructure is the current buzzword that describes computer networking hardware, software, people, policies, organizations, and so forth. It's the folks that brought the TerraGrid and more recently Petascale, this Petascale initiative. They've just signed a cooperative agreement with the Big Ten universities to build at Illinois what will be the fastest computer in the world. It will be about a $400 million machine built by IBM and capable of perhaps as many as 10 petaflops. That's 10 to the 16th floating point operations a second. So that's roughly the speed we believe today of the human brain. So we'll have crossed a certain threshold. Second, one of the reasons I was at MIT is that I'm just about to send off to the printer a report on the status and the future of engineering as a profession, as a knowledge base, and the way in which we produce engineers. And that is very heavily tinged by global concerns. Third, I, for the last 8 years, have co-chaired an organization known as the Glion Colloquium. This is an organization which I co-chair with the former rector of the University of Geneva. We meet every 2 years in Switzerland. And in the past, what we've done is to create a cross-Atlantic dialogue between leaders of American universities, actually North American, because Canada is involved, and those from the European community. This last June, we did something quite different. We brought in 25 university leaders from around the world, from 18 countries, 5 continents, from not only Europe and North America, but from China, India, Japan, Singapore, Korea, Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, Middle East, to talk about the future of the university and how the globalization of our society is affecting that. Then I'm on a couple of other things that relate to that. What I'd like to do today is to kind of begin by sketching out the 5 themes that drive these issues. Be very brief on that. Then I'll give you 2 examples. I'll give you an example of how globalization is affecting a profession such as engineering. And then second, I'll step back a bit and provide another example of how globalization is rechanging the way we think about higher education and about learning. And then I'll kind of move out to what I call the Oort cloud, about a light year beyond the planet Pluto, where ex-university presidents are exiled, so we kind of stay out of people's way. And talk about several crazy ideas. Imagine these as comets that those of us that live out in the Oort cloud get to kind of rattle in around the solar system to shake things up. Okay, the 5 big issues. First is obviously the knowledge economy, the fact that we've already evolved into a post-industrial knowledge-based society. The Economist, the British magazine, noted that if you look at the Fortune 500, you'll find that 20% of the value of companies in the Fortune 500 depend on the old-fashioned tangible assets, capital, facilities, and so forth. 70% involve intangible assets, skilled workers, patents, know-how, and so forth. The point is that we have evolved beyond a material and labor-intensive economy to one that's dependent upon knowledge products and knowledge services. That is, depends upon a system of creating wealth that involves the creation of and application of new knowledge. And of course, that means it's heavily dependent on people and their ideas. One of my colleagues, Eric Bloch, who used to be head of the National Science Foundation and actually was a senior engineer with IBM, calls this the age of knowledge in a global economy. And of course, that's a theme that Tom Friedman has picked up in his recent book, The World is Flat. Although, quite frankly, he simply repeated what a great many people have been saying for the last 20 years.